Hi Uttori Zoku, this is Imari from Always Uttori, where we cover fashion, food, and lifestyle. Today, we're celebrating Juneteenth with a delicious spread of Southern and African diaspora heritage foods. Our Juneteenth menu features traditional heritage dishes like collard greens and potlikker, flavored with smoked turkey. For the sides, we have creamy Carolina gold rice and hot water cornbread with honey sumac butter. We'll also whip up some Akara Fritters. And for our red drink, we're making a refreshing hibiscus and watermelon soda. That's the menu. Now let's talk about the history of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a holiday that celebrates freedom for all Americans. On June 19, 1865, enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas, were informed that slavery had been abolished 2 months after the Civil War ended and 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. This day is known as Juneteenth, a blend of June and 19th, and is often called America's Second Independence Day. With the migration of African Americans out of the South to the North and Midwest during the 1900s, Juneteenth has become more than a regional holiday and was officially recognized as a federal holiday in 2021. While Juneteenth is a time to honor the rich cultural heritage and contributions of the African diaspora in the U.S., just like St. Patrick's Day and Cinco de Mayo, it's a holiday that can be enjoyed by all. That's the history. Now, let's cook some enchantment. We're starting with Akara, or black-eyed pea fritters, because it takes some prep work. Start by soaking 2 cups of black-eyed peas in water overnight. This helps to soften the beans so that it's easier to remove the skins and also reduces the complex sugars and anti-nutrients present in the beans. The next day, drain the water and remove the skins from the beans by rubbing them between your hands. The skins should come off fairly easily, but it is still a time-consuming task. It's nearly impossible to get all the skins off, so go for a majority rather than every single one. Occasionally run water over the beans and drain off the skins, which should float to the top of the water with a little stirring. Akara is a traditional West African snack originating with the Yoruba people. It traveled from West Africa to Caribbean and Brazilian cuisines, along with the African diaspora, and has since taken on many variations. Interestingly, the Brazilian form of Akara, acarajé, was named as a National Intangible Historic Heritage in 2004 and as part of Rio de Janeiro's Cultural Heritage in 2023, to some controversy, as acarajé is more prominent in the neighboring state of Bahia. If you don't want to remove the skins by hand, you can try pulsing the beans in a food processor to help break up the beans. You don't want to blend them too much, just enough to loosen the skins. Since this was my first time making Akara, I was nervous to go too far, so I'm not sure it really helped me to speed up the process. But I wanted to make sure I tried both methods. The next time I make them, I'll skip right to the food processor. It's important to remove the skins from the beans so that the batter is smooth and uniform. Too many skins will result in a crumbly fritter. Personally, I came across Akara while doing research for one of our Christmas themes this year. While Akara didn't fit with that theme, I couldn't get the idea of a black-eyed pea fritter out of my head. Black-eyed peas are one of my favorite parts of my family's New Year's tradition of collard greens, cornbread, and black-eyed peas. Since this Juneteenth celebration has a few of the same elements, I thought this would be a fun way to update the way we eat black-eyed peas while trying a new diaspora food. For the record, my take on Akara is non-traditional, since traditional Akara uses Scotch bonnet peppers, bell peppers, and lots of spice. I'm the only one in my family who likes spicy food, so I've left out the traditional spices and humbly Americanized it by adding some cheese in the center. Once you've got most of the skin removed, place the beans in a blender or food processor. Add 1 small onion roughly chopped, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Of course, if you like things spicy, you can go with a more traditional Scotch bonnet pepper instead. Begin blending the mixture. Add water a tablespoon at a time, as needed, to help the beans blend up. You shouldn't need more than 1/4 cup of water, but you want to make sure the batter doesn't become too runny, so it's best to add water in increments. Blend until you achieve a thick, smooth paste. Next, place the batter in a stand mixer with a whisk attachment, or use an electric beater and whip air into the batter for about 10 minutes. Technically, you don't have to do this step, but doing so produces really light and fluffy fritters. Cut the cheese you are going to use into small cubes. I went for mozzarella. Next, pour about 2 to 3 inches of vegetable oil into a deep pot or large frying pan. Heat the oil to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or until a small amount of batter dropped into the oil sizzles and rises to the surface. Scoop the bean mixture up with a spoon and carefully drop it into the hot oil. For my first batch, I went with plain Akara to test the cooking. These fry up fast and take about 3 to 5 minutes. Flip when you see the bottom side turning golden brown. Use a slotted spoon to scoop the akara out of the oil and let drain on a paper towel. For the cheese variation, press a cube of cheese into the center and scoop more batter on top to cover, then drop it into the oil. Do not overcrowd the pan, otherwise the akara might stick to each other. And there you have it, crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside, and in some cases, cheesy. These were really tasty, and even some of the pickier eaters liked them. Next up, we're cooking collard greens flavored with smoked turkey necks. Collard greens are a staple in traditional Southern cuisine and can be attributed to the ingenuity of enslaved Africans who made the most of leftover ingredients. Collards are a type of brassica, like broccoli and cauliflower, and are packed with vitamins, minerals, and dietary fiber. According to WebMD, a single cup of collards provides vitamin A, B6, C, E, and K, along with other nutrients. They are also beneficial for gut health. As I mentioned before, my family always has collard greens and black-eyed peas for our New Year's meal. However, collard greens, or a meso greens, a mix of collards, mustard greens, and turnip greens, in my family's tradition, are also often served at Juneteenth barbecues and cookouts. Today, we're focusing on the collard greens, with a side of potlikker, the vitamin-rich broth left over after cooking greens. To prepare your collard greens, start by washing and chopping. I elected to chop my greens up first, then wash them. How you cut them up is up to personal preference. You can chop them into large chunks or thin ribbons. Make sure to cut off the woody stems. Next, it's important to wash the greens thoroughly, as there can be a lot of trapped dirt, sand, and even bugs. Fill a large bowl with water and rinse, agitating the leaves firmly, but so as to not bruise the leaves. Add 3 tablespoons of baking soda and let the greens soak for 15 to 20 minutes. Drain the water and rinse until it's clear. Now comes the fun part. I like to throw all my ingredients in a pressure cooker and call it a day, but of course you can also do this in a large stock pot. To cook in the pressure cooker, place 4 cups of chicken stock, the greens, your smoked turkey leg, or in my case, smoked turkey necks, 1 onion chopped, 3 cloves of garlic, and 1 can of diced tomatoes into the pot. Then add 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce and 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. Put the lid on and set the pressure cooker on high pressure for 40 minutes. You can actually go for a shorter amount of time, like 20 minutes, but I do 40, especially since I usually have black-eyed peas in there too. To cook on the stove, saute the onions and garlic in oil until fragrant, then add the chicken broth and remaining ingredients and bring to a boil. Add the greens, lower the heat, and simmer for 1 to 2 hours, stirring occasionally until your desired texture is reached. Once the greens are cooked, season with 1/2 teaspoon or more of red pepper flakes and salt and pepper to taste. You can serve the greens together as a meso green soup or strain out the greens and have the potlikker separately. For many, potlikker is the star of the show as it's full of water-soluble vitamins from your greens. You could also use the potlikker as the foundation of other meals like shrimp and grits, or add in chicken, pasta, and various seasonings to make a full-bodied, nutrient-dense soup. Now that we have our greens, it's time to make the creamy Carolina gold rice. Next, we have a creamy Carolina gold rice. This recipe utilizes the heirloom variety of rice known as Carolina gold rice. However, you could use a long grain rice if you don't want to specially buy gold rice. I actually didn't have quite enough gold rice left, so I supplemented with Carolina aromatic rice. Start by washing the Carolina gold rice until the water runs clear. Carolina gold rice is the ancestor to long grain rice in America and was brought in the early 1700s, though there are varying theories about how exactly it came to South Carolina. The rice could have been brought over by slaves from West Africa's rice coast, or it could have been introduced to the region after a merchant ship paid for repairs with a barrel of rice seed from Madagascar. Regardless of how the rice came to America, it flourished in the marshy low country of South Carolina, and soon became America's favorite rice, with 160 million pounds produced each year and thousands of pounds of the rice exported to regions like France, England, and even Asia. Importantly, the success of Carolina gold rice production was due to the labor of slaves, as well as their expertise in rice farming. Getting back to the recipe, after washing the rice, chop 1 medium onion, then saute the onions and 2 cloves of garlic in butter in a large saucepan until the onions are translucent and tender. Add the rice and toast on medium heat for 2 to 3 minutes, stirring frequently to prevent it from burning. This enhances the rice's nutty flavor, which it's known for. With the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, Carolina gold rice was no longer as viable to produce. 1927 was the last time that Carolina gold rice was harvested commercially. The rice has experienced a resurgence in popularity after being grown as an heirloom variety starting in the 1980s. For those of us with African ancestry, Carolina gold rice represents the skills and knowledge of our ancestors that were exploited as a part of slavery. Despite its complicated history, this rice played an important role in American history and also left an impact on Southern cuisine. I think cooking with this cherished rice variety is a great way to reclaim a part of not only American history, but also ancestral history. After the rice is toasted, I chose to finish cooking in the rice cooker so I didn't have to keep an eye on it. But of course, you can continue cooking on the stove. Add 4 1/2 cups of chicken broth and some smoked turkey. I used a small neck bone, but if you cooked your greens ahead of time, this would be a great use of potlikker and some of the leftover turkey from the greens. Cook until the rice is tender, about 20 minutes, or cook on the regular rice cooker setting. Once the rice is cooked, add 1 cup of heavy cream, 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and salt and pepper to taste. Since I cooked my rice in the rice cooker, I transferred it to a large saucepan and cooked on low, stirring to meld the cream with the rice. Mix until the rice absorbs the cream and then serve. Next up, we're making the hot water cornbread. It's not a southern meal without cornbread. For this, we're going old school with hot water cornbread. To add a twist on a classic, I'm pairing it with some homemade honey sumac butter. I wanted to try and recreate the flavors of the honey sumac butter served with hush puppies at Sorry Charlie's Oyster Bar in Savannah, Georgia. Sumac is a popular Middle Eastern spice that has a sweet and tart lemony flavor with a hint of floral notes. To make the butter, cream 1/2 cup of softened unsalted butter, 1 1/2 tablespoons of honey, 1/2 tablespoon of ground sumac, 1/2 teaspoon of lemon zest, and a pinch of salt. Of course, you can adjust any of these to your taste. Whip until combined. Spoon in a bowl and store in the refrigerator until ready to use. To make the hot water cornbread, mix 2 cups of fine cornmeal, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Stir until incorporated. Next, mix in 1/4 cup of melted butter. Stir to combine, then slowly add 3/4 cup of boiling water, stirring continuously. Add more water as needed. Like the Akara, we want to avoid the batter becoming too runny. It should be thick but wet enough to hold its shape. In a frying pan, heat about 1/2 inch of vegetable oil over medium-high heat. I used the same oil I fried the Akara in. When the oil is hot enough, you can check by dropping a small amount of batter in. If it sizzles, it's ready. Wet your hands with water to prevent sticking, then scoop up about 1/4 cup of the cornmeal mixture. Form it into a ball, then flatten it into a patty. Carefully place the patties in the oil and fry each side for about 2 to 3 minutes or until golden brown and crispy. Remove the patties from the oil and let them drain on a paper towel-lined plate. Cornbread originated with Native Americans who have developed many recipes with corn as a staple ingredient. While Native American tribes across the Americas have variations on cornbread, hot water cornbread is unique to the South. Wheat was difficult to grow in the South because the heat would turn the wheat rancid. As a result, wheat was an expensive luxury, one that could only be afforded by wealthy landowners. So, cornbread quickly became a staple in Southern cuisine, especially among enslaved Africans. Once the cornbread is fried up, serve hot for the best texture and flavor. And don't forget to slather with the honey sumac butter. Next up is our red drink. Red is an important part of the Juneteenth tradition foods. According to the historian Michael Twitty, the practice of eating red foods may owe its existence to the enslaved Yoruba and Congo brought to the U.S. in the 19th century, as red was an embodiment of spiritual power and transformation. Additionally, hibiscus, a plant that is indigenous to Africa, also made the transatlantic journey to grow in the food plots of the diaspora. Hibiscus is the base of numerous African diaspora beverages, from bissap to sorrel tea. Hibiscus drinks are a reminder that though most of our ancestors were farmers and craftsmen, they were also survivors. Our hibiscus drink combines the floral notes of hibiscus with the sweet juiciness of watermelon and a non-alcoholic hibiscus and watermelon soda. To make the drink, add 4 cups of water, 1/2 cup of dried hibiscus flowers, and 1/2 cup of sugar. You can adjust the sweetness to your preference, and also depending on how sweet your watermelon is. Bring to a boil and then let the tea steep for 15 to 20 minutes. Strain the flowers from the tea and allow the drink to come to room temperature. Meanwhile, chop about 4 cups of watermelon into cubes, removing any seeds, and place in a blender. Blend until smooth, then strain through a fine mesh sieve to remove the pulp. Combine the hibiscus tea and watermelon juice. Stir to combine, then chill until ready to serve. You can drink this on its own, and it's really tasty. But if you want to make it into a soda, add sparkling water. Fill your glass halfway with the drink and the rest of the way up with sparkling water. And with that, we have a tasty Juneteenth feast featuring collard greens, potlikker, creamy Carolina gold rice, Akara hot water cornbread, and a hibiscus watermelon soda. This is more than enough on its own, but Juneteenth is all about the grilling out, so fire up the grill and add your favorite protein to complete your Juneteenth meal. These dishes are more than just food. They're a celebration of heritage, culture, and history of strength. If you enjoyed these recipes, please like the video and consider subscribing for more recipes like this. Let us know in the comments how you celebrate Juneteenth. And remember, enchantment awaits. Life is about finding it.